him.
I want to watch the news.
Are you making headway at least?
This is the news.
Smack 'em a gob, it's time for the only news that matters. And during an appearance on a recent episode of the School of Greatness, podcast host Lewis Howes and Gene Simmons of Kiss was asked to name some of the greatest musicians and songwriters in the world that he has seen or heard. He responded, well, clearly the Beatles are above and beyond anything that anybody's seen in music over, 200 years easily. Not since the Renaissance. You have to understand, they only existed 7 years, and they came from a place that was a pool filled with Liverpool, where nothing ever happens. High employment rate, no experience, no resume, no nothing. And yet, I want to hold your hand, she loves you, yeah, and the last chord, the minor ninth, is a sophisticated chord if you know about music. That thing is almost like a jazz chord, unheard of in rock music. Okay, look, I'm going to give you something you'll be able to understand. The Rolling Stones' Satisfaction is one of the great songs. It only takes about 40 seconds to get to the first chorus. Beatles were different. They have a song called Help, and the song Help starts with the chorus. Help starts the song. Unheard of. And Hey Jude, the word hey comes on before the music starts. Those are what are called perfect songs. Not only that, but the title of the song is the first word of the song. It's the memorable song, and it's the last word of the song. Yesterday. The last words of that song, because I believe in yesterday. Who writes songs like that? It's undeniable. Their writing, Paul McCartney especially, by far is the most successful songwriter in all recorded history. There has been over 1,000 different artists who recorded just yesterday. Gene previously reflected on the first memory of the Beatles in an interview with Spin magazine when he said, I was a kid and I was affected by the Beatles like a religious event, like a singularity. I wasn't a musician, I was just a kid. Turned on the TV and the Beatles came out. She loves you, yeah, and I'm going, what is that? What accent is that? And they look like girls. And they're small human beings with silly haircuts. The Beatles' White Album is one of my favorites because you see Turmoil with perhaps the greatest band that ever existed that's recording its own music, where each member was a star. But you could hear and feel the disjointed sense of the album, although clearly the song shined and the playing and the production was terrific. It's interesting that Abbey Road perhaps was the greatest Beatles album, and they were breaking up at that point, but somehow they had more unified thing. But just crazy out there music, it's got to be the White Album. And were it not for the Beatles, England would have been about Knights at the Round Table and Guy Fawkes and all that stuff. Just another country with a history of a lot of countries have colorful histories. The Beatles made it and created a culture, almost a religion, and Liverpool became a holy ground. So when the Beatles hit, it was like an H-bomb. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing and hearing. It was unbelievable. And all of us kept pointing to England. And it affected me so much that I actually started to speak in a fake English accent. I mean, Elvis Presley was a star, but it didn't affect culture. He was a true rock star, but didn't affect how you led your life or what you did or what you thought. But the Beatles changed everything. It was almost like BB and AB before the Beatles and after the Beatles. Everything changed, and it was a British invasion, which hit not just America, but all around the world. So there you go. Here's a news story, and it's not on Kiss Wednesday. But, it's more of a news report on the Beatles. I mean, Kiss has so many news reports that, I figured this one I won't put on Kiss Wednesday. And plus, what the hell's going on out there? There's no news. I have to stoop to this level. If there was chunks of news, I probably would stick this on a Kiss Wednesday. But the Beatles, I know I've talked a lot about the Beatles, how they're so important, but Gene makes a lot of sense, man. They really did change everything. I mean, I was too young to witness the Beatles when they were around. I did hear them while they were around on the radio and stuff, but they broke up when I was 5 years old. But on my birthday, February 9th, but a year prior to my birthday, February 9th, 1964, the Beatles played Ed Sullivan, and that's what changed the world. A lot of people said, the world was black and white, and when the Beatles came, the world turned color. And I love all that Beatles stuff, man. The early years, what you would call boy band, greatest fucking boy band ever. The early stuff, but there was some heavy stuff on those early, like I Call Your Name was heavy. I Saw Her Standing There. I mean, that's their first song off their first album. Pretty damn rockin' tune. And, middle section was my favorite. Really starting at Help, which was almost the middle section. Like Help, Rubber Soul, Revolver. That little chunk there is probably my favorite, my three favorite. But then there's the White Album. Yeah, I would put the White Album above Help, now I think about it. And Abbey Road is awesome too. I would put Help above Abbey Road though. That's right, I said it. And yeah, timeline. I was too young back then to buy the Beatles albums. And the Beatles albums were different in the U.S. than they were in England, the early ones. I believe up to Revolver. And, man, I grew up on the English ones because I bought all the CDs at the same time back in 1990. I got into the Beatles, their whole discography, deep dive into the whole discography. I never done that with a band before where I buy all the records to get into them. I did with the Beatles because enough's enough. I grew up all my life hearing songs on the radio from the Beatles that I loved. And I also owned the Blue, that Greatest Hits Blue one. I did own, that was the only Beatles album I owned till 1990. I became a major Beatle freak. So, I don't know, like a year or so ago, they released this box set of the Beatles' American albums. And the American versions in mono. I was like, man, I'm going to get it, I don't know the American versions. I really don't. I never sat down and listened to the American versions. Anyway, I bought the box set. Great box set. Albums sound awesome. But the track listings suck. I mean, suck. I think Help starts with I Just Seen a Face. By the way, one of my favorite Beatles songs. I would put that maybe in my top 5. I Just Seen a Face. But it opens Help, or I don't know, I don't know what album it opened, but it opened one of the albums. I was like, this is not an opening tune. It kind of represents, what is this, kind of like an acoustic-y folk type band, it's for a song to open like that. Yeah, man, then you listen to the versions from the UK, and my God, that's what I grew up with. That's what I have. I even have the mono box set of all the UK versions. Totally way better. But, like I said, timeline's everything. I'm sure the little kids back in England, back in the US, were listening to that in the 60s going, man, this is awesome. And they probably heard the UK version going, nah, I like my American version more. I can see that happening. Like AC/DC is a great example. I hate Dirty Deeds and High Voltage. I hate those Australian versions. I'm too used to my American version. I guess it's timeline, but I prefer the American version of that where it's the opposite from the UK. Beatles version of the albums. Anyway, what do you all think? Hey, anybody out there prefer the American Beatles, the American mix over, you know, the UK? Let us know in the comments below. And man, thank you so much, everybody, for watching The Only News That Matters. I'm running out of stories, though. There may be some few days you ain't gonna see no Only News That Matters because the news just don't matter now. But it'll pick up, I'm sure. You know, Kiss will be involved. And thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Ring that little notification bell and like the video. It's good for the YouTube algorithms. So stay frosty. Listen to Black Sabbath and smack 'em a gob.
Well, and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain. For we've received orders for to sail back to Boston. And so never more shall we see you again.